Welcome to Crossroads. I'm your host, Joshua Phillip, and today we have Jim Weber. He's the president of Global Connections International, right? And what they're doing is fighting against human trafficking. And it's an interesting story that they did not start off as an organization focused on fighting human trafficking, but through their work, discovered the seriousness of this issue and began making it a priority. So tell us a bit about what you do.
Well, we started off in 2000 and have been involved in about 15 different countries and networked with humanitarian and faith-based type projects, providing resources and so on. But we came face to face with this in Cambodia, and back in 2001 we built probably the first safe house for women rescued out of human trafficking in Cambodia. And I just got back from my 23rd trip last October to Cambodia. But one day, a young mother out of Highlands Ranch, a gated community, came into our office and had a story to tell of what had happened to their daughter that absolutely just our jaws dropped, and realized that this was going on here at home, right here in the States, right under our noses. And even out of gated communities, not just the difficult, underprivileged and underserved communities, but kids out of our affluent communities were being sucked into this. So we really felt compelled to do something about that. And most of the resources and manpower today are being, and rightfully so, but they're trying to rescue kids that get caught up in this and restore them. But very little is being done out front. And we feel compelled to focus. We all can't do everything, but we can do something. And we felt compelled to get in and try to cut this off before it happens by just awareness and prevention measures.
Yeah, well, I think for some people this might be shocking to hear that human trafficking is taking place in the United States. It's not just immigrant communities, but even affluent, nice neighborhoods that this happens in. I mean, we hear about random crime in Florida, but we don't hear about kids being trafficked when this is apparently a pretty big issue that we're facing. So why, in your understanding, why is it we don't hear about this stuff? Why this stuff is happening, we don't hear about it?
Well, I will say, to be encouraging, we're way better off than we were 4 or 5 years ago. There are increasingly great collaborative efforts and things going on between all sectors of our communities. But I think we're privileged living in this country, and we get in our cultural bubbles, in our communities, and are busy with life and all the distractions of living, and we just hear something like human trafficking, we automatically assume it's Cambodia or India, but it's happening. We call it hidden in plain sight. There are young people living at home right here in Highlands Ranch, for example, in Douglas County in Colorado, one of the most expensive counties to live in the whole United States. They're going to school every day, living at home, and they're lying to their parents 3 or 4 nights a week about where they are because they're being trafficked. And they got themselves into trouble. And the use of fraud and coercion are 2 of the key elements. It's not the black van snatching kids out of the parking lot at Walmart, contrary to what the movies often show. That's not the primary way this happens. They've made poor choices with social media, sent a picture out that they can't get back, and talking to people they have no idea who they are because the need to be loved and cared for and affirmed, whatever drives all that. And then they've got them. And you do what we say, or we'll hurt your family, we'll ruin your dad's business. We know where your little sister goes to preschool. They even know the name of the family dog. They're so good at grooming these kids and finding that stuff out. So then they're coerced into doing this for fear of the consequences if they don't.
So what are some of the cases you've dealt with? Can maybe, of course, don't name names, but maybe some, circumstances you've come across?
Well, we've been taking this 44-foot educational trailer around to fairs and rodeos and schools and churches and even NASCAR, and just trying to get the word out that way. And the Colorado Farm Bureau has been one of our greatest promoters, and we were invited to their convention in November, And then their people went back to their counties and have started bringing us into the counties, into their communities to try and get this message out. So we were over in Craig, Colorado, a rural community, a couple hundred miles west of Denver, and had done some school assemblies. And the principal told the kids at the middle school that they needed to come out and go see the trailer and see what was in there after the assemblies. And a little 7th grade girl comes up to one of our lady volunteers that was with us on staff and said, "This is happening to me right now, and I didn't know who to talk to or how to get out of it." And that was just a few weeks ago in a rural community that's very close-knit, and they really look out for each other. But it's happening right under our noses, and amazing.
About how big is this issue? Like, what is your estimated scale in terms of numbers you've seen?
Well, worldwide today, they estimate that there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 40.3 to 40.6 million people being held against their will in human trafficking situations. When you think that during the entire emancipation era, there were only 12 million that were brought into the United States or transported across the Atlantic, that's pretty amazing. And there's well over 300,000 right here in the United States, and that's growing. We just got recent statistics a couple weeks ago, and now the United States is rated as the #3 country in the world for human trafficking, next to only Mexico and the Philippines. It's the fastest growing illegal business in the world, and all the agencies working on this together guesstimate it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $152 billion a year industry. The average pimp in Denver makes 50 grand a week and does that off of 3 or 4 girls. So it's incredible.
So in terms of prosecution, in terms of getting these people behind bars, what has your success rate been?
Well, that'll vary from different parts of the country, but I'm really proud to say that the FBI Innocence Loss Task Force that coordinates efforts among all of our law enforcement agencies up and down the Front Range, Denver is right at the top in terms of the number of cases that they followed up on and gotten prosecution on and so on. And it would depend on the community and so on and so forth, but we're making real progress in that area right now.
Great. And you think part of it's through the education?
Yes.
And I assume people stepping forward, which also, having the courage for them to giving them the courage to step forward, I should say, to come out and actually, break through that control through fear that I think is one of the main holds they use, right?
You're exactly right. Yeah.
Great. I guess just as the last point, what do you hope people will understand when it comes to this issue? What message would you like to get out to the world, when it comes to this issue?
Sometimes when you hear that we're the #3 country in the world, and there's 40 point some million, and et cetera, it's kind of overwhelming. And you think, well, what in the world could I do? But everybody can do something. And as we go into a community, we want to get in front of parents of preschoolers through 5th grade, not necessarily their kids at that age, but we get in front of the parents and encourage them to set some protocol in their homes and then discuss it and create a moreway or folkway for their community where they're all on the same page and they're doing the right things to fortify their community against it. When this 69-year-old grandpa was growing up, we had the Neighborhood Watch program, right? And we want to see that kind of a concept develop. So law enforcement, schools, special training for the hospitality industry, the medical industry, all the different industries where everybody's watching for some red flags that are very obvious if you know what to look for and are watching for them. And we can nip this in the bud, and it never has to happen in your community if you get everybody on board. So that's our message. As we go from place to place, we don't want people leaving depressed about what they're hearing, but to be encouraged and know they can protect their kids and grandkids and make a difference. And they'll go someplace else if we're well organized in our own community.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.